couple of years ago, I bought a 1979 Suzuki motorcycle that didn't run. I paid $150 for it and thought, someday I'll do something with that. Well, this past Christmas, I was looking for something to do, and I pulled that old motorcycle out of the corner of the garage, cleaned the carburetors, did a bunch of other things, and got it running. So then I decided, well, I might as well fix all the little things that are wrong with it. And I fixed a bunch of stuff, and then I finally came to the switch that goes to the brake lever on the handlebars. When you pull the brake lever, it's supposed to turn on the brake light, but that brake switch wasn't working. So I took it apart. The bad part about that is that it was full of lots of little pieces, like lots of little copper pieces that were barely bigger than the end of a ballpoint pen. And as I was working on it, you can imagine what happened next. I dropped one of them. And my floor wasn't very clean at the time. It had water on it and dirt and all this kind of stuff. And so I just kind of stood there as soon as I dropped that piece. I just stood there and looked around. I didn't want to move because I thought if I move, I'm going to step on it or kick it. So I just stood there looking to see if I could find it. Probably stood there for about 10 or 15 minutes. I couldn't see it anywhere. Finally, I went and got a great big magnet and I ran it over where I thought maybe that piece was. Didn't find it. Eventually, I had the idea to take my trouble light and put it on the ground and let it shine across the ground so that anything that was on the ground would cast a big shadow. And then I laid down beside it and looked myself, and all of a sudden, right over there is this bright little copper thing. That was the piece. That piece of that brake switch was sitting on the floor right there all the time. I just couldn't see it from my perspective when I was standing up. But as soon as I changed my perspective and laid down on the floor, there it was. Found the piece, put it back together, made the switch work, everything turned out well, but it only turned out well because I was able to get a different perspective and find what I needed to find. I think that's true spiritually too. I think sometimes we just really need to fight to find a better perspective. Blessings are all around us all the time, but we just need to keep fighting to see things well, to see the things we need to see. In Psalm 112, the psalm describes a righteous man, a faithful man, and what he's like and how God treats him. And there's a line in here that I've been thinking about for 6 or 8 months. It says in verse 4 of Psalm 112, it says, "Even in darkness, light dawns for the upright." That's the NIV translation. Even in the darkness, light dawns for the upright. I like what that little phrase has to say. It says several important things. Number one, that there will be darkness. This is describing a faithful, upright, good man, and he says he's going to be in darkness sometimes. We're not spared from trouble or hardships, or there is going to be darkness. Dark times will come. But he says this, even in the darkness, the upright man has light. Other translations argue with that translation, though, and they say this isn't saying that in darkness a righteous man will have light from God. They claim that it says, actually, that in darkness the righteous man will be light himself, that when trouble comes, everybody else can look to the righteous man because he will be their light and he will be their hope. He will remind them of the good things. That's not a bad translation either. Either way you take that verse, it's still really good. It either says that when trouble comes, God is the light for those who are looking for it, or when trouble comes, those who know God are the light. Either way, when trouble comes, when the darkness comes, we can still find the light. We need to just keep looking because right now it's pretty dark. I know lots of people who are getting very fed up with COVID restrictions and everything. There's lots of fatigue setting in. People are just ready to give up and they're grouchy and angry. That's one perspective. Can we fight to see a better one? Can we fight to see our blessings? Can we fight to see something good still? Can we find the light? Even in the darkness, there is light for the upright. Can you live in that light? Can you celebrate that light? Can you be the hope and the light for someone else? Can you walk in the light today?